Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Jasper, Dr. Gabriele Jasper, MD, interventional pain physician with Jeremy and my father, who will have his 95th birthday this week.
Get out of 10, 95th. Oh, my God.
What year were you born, Dad?
27.
1927, December 6th. When's December 6th?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Holy cow.
Well, somebody knows what's going on around here.
Yeah. Tuesday.
All right. So my father, he's our special guest today.
Yeah.
He's we're going to talk a little bit more about it, but before hopefully we got some new people listening today, and I want to tell them what we do.
Sure.
Interventional pain physician. We do pain. We get rid of pain, mostly derived from the spine. However, we get rid of pain from just about everything. We don't do much of fibromyalgia, stuff like that.
Right.
But we because you can't really find a pain generator with fibromyalgia, but with specific pains derived from the spine, you could find a pain generator and you get rid of it.
Right.
You find what's pinching the nerve and you unpinch it.
Yeah.
In layman terms, and you get rid of the pain, and that's what we do. And we got many ways of doing it. We do epidural injections. I had the other day a patient say, "Isn't that just a Band-Aid?" That's a misnomer. We talked about that on the station here.
Yeah.
But it could be permanent,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be not working at all. So it's anywhere in between.
Yeah.
But a lot of times,
But you've given people epidurals and you've never seen them again.
yeah,
Or you see them like a year or two later, and you're like, "Hey, what? Haven't you come in?" And they're like, "Yeah, no, man, that's all I needed."
Yeah, it happens all the time, and you can see the studies that can show that too.
Yeah.
And plus, 80% of the people, as we say, get better on their own. You just try to get off of whatever nerve's pinched, feel good, make it feel good, and it heals up usually on its own. That's the majority of people. So don't rush into any big surgeries just because you got sciatica pain. Anyway, so like I said, we have my father here. He's our honored guest today.
That's right.
Switch it over to him a little bit. We're gonna. I just want to ask him. We were talking about that. We were talking about the other day when you actually retired.
When?
Look into the camera.
Yeah.
When did I actually retire?
Yeah. How many years ago was it?
13 years ago.
So you were 83 years old when you retired.
Yes.
How many years did you practice medicine?
56.
56 years. It's always a great topic when we talk about how medicine was. 56 plus 13, that's 56, 66, 69 years, pushing 70 years he started practicing medicine.
Right.
How was it practicing medicine 70 years ago compared to today?
It was a limited activity because there weren't not that many people out there who had gone into specialization, such as a residency in a particular specialty. They were anxious to get back out there and make a living and pay off their debts. But it has changed because the demand has changed, and which was ultimately unavoidable. And I think the good news is that there are good choices today for whatever problem you may have, and they don't have to be totally invasive and disrupting of your life. And this is where we're heading. We're heading for modern and progressive and popular approaches to disease and malfunctioning.
Yeah, I like to hear, which is interesting. The big thing today is, especially now, in my office, we're having problems getting paid by insurance companies. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was a kid, you used to talk about there really wasn't much insurance. It wasn't even Medicare. Like, what did you do when you got out of residency in urology? What did you do to make money? I mean, there was really no. I mean, were there any insurance companies, Medicare? What was going on then?
Yeah, they of course they were covering as much as they could at the time, but and there wasn't really that much to cover because there was not that wide a choice as it is getting to be today.
Yeah.
But it did start slowly and with limitations.
Did they have insurance in those days?
Well, yes, they had whatever they chose to underline or accept. And
what about Medicare? When did Medicare come in?
Yeah, I read that like the earlier insurance companies were actually started by doctors, so that to help their patients, pay their fees and bills.
But the big thing, Dad, because you hear people complaining, doctors complaining today about Medicare, and they don't pay enough and stuff like that. And how many years of practice, or when did Medicare actually start?
That's a good question. I don't have the precise answer right now, but pretty early on. And
well, when you started, it didn't have Medicare, right?
Yes, they had it, but it was very limited. And we had to kind of have a battle with them.
Oh yeah, that's interesting because I was just thinking, what was your first take on the insurance companies when you first started out?
Well, it was helpful, and we were kind of we tried to encourage them and to help them survive. But as you might guess, there was some abuse.
Yeah.
And from the parts of both sides. And
now by today, though,
not much has
it's
changed.
like, is it night and day different, or is is the kind of distrust still there on the same level as it was back
we happen to have a fact checker here.
Well,
Margaret, can you do me a favor? Can you Google when Medicare actually opened up and started?
Yeah. That's my beautiful wife. Yeah.
Go ahead.
A fact checker. Yeah, because I remember when we were younger, you used to say when Medicare actually came out, everybody's pretty excited about it because finally we're getting paid.
July 30th, 1965.
1965.
65.
Dad, what year did you start working?
As a urologist, 1963.
So he's right.
Oh, all right. So you were right there at the dawning of that. Yeah.
So what did you do from 63 to 1965?
I did whatever had to be done for the patient's good, and whatever reimbursement yielded that, we accepted.
Yeah.
And we did not pursue
this is what I think I heard about. I remembered to ask you about this. What were you getting in lieu of payment back then? Like say like sometimes patients will bring in like meatballs or something like that. Like what's like some fun things that you got in lieu of payment?
Well, if the patient was Italian, some kind of Italian vegetable from his backyard garden,
Really?
Which became a big load for us to cook, and whatever sign the patient gave us as a sign of thanks and
gratitude,
appreciation, we accept it. We didn't try to measure dollars and cents against last year or next year or whatever. It was just a status,
a courtesy, courtesy for taking care of them.
Sure, because before that was even less. You just did absolutely everything and for nothing.
Right.
And we were happy to do it.
Yeah.
Doctors, I mean, not we, the doctors that were in practice.
Yeah.
And but as you can guess, our overhead started to increase because of rules and regulations. Keeping a track of patients and what they had.
Yeah.
Uh,
Keeping the book straight and all that. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you had to hire more people.
Yeah.
And then forget it. That was even before computers. But either way, that's what it comes down to. Like my practice right now. I mean, it's the overhead that kills you.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you had a little, go ahead.
See, the difference between this country and a few other countries is that few other countries had rules and regulations that obligated the medical profession, to do everything for minimal amount, and it was called socialized medicine.
Yeah.
In this country, the words socialized medicine was a bad word.
Yeah.
And the AMA and other organizations fought the concept, and the government didn't overrule them. They kind of went along. But that's why some of the problems exist today. Yeah. And also that includes how many doctors were produced a year in this country. As an example, 6,000 passed away per year, and they allowed 6,000 people to become physicians. So they kept an equal amount of physicians out in the field. However, after the war started, both wars, big ones, the deficit was very obvious, and it became one of the cause célèbre to get more physicians out in the field. That's where we are sort of today.
Now, as on socialized medicine, I do want to say that my dad, he fell this week. He's blind now from his diabetes, and he fell and broke his hip, and he was on the kitchen floor. Now he lives in England, so that's socialized medicine right there. Okay, and he's on the floor in the kitchen, suffering so much pain. They call an ambulance. All right. Would you believe that they told him that the ambulance would come sometime within 6 hours? Can you imagine that?
Yes, I can imagine it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what the difference is? We talked about that the other day.
Yeah.
When you're in England, you're in Italy, you're in Germany. Well, maybe Germany not as much, but France. You know, all these countries that have socialized medicines and socialized medicine. Even the Asian, Orient, they have the same thing. But if you got a lot of money, he probably can make a phone call and get picked up in less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So with socialized medicine, it's not a lot of things.
But you're
good.
paying.
A lot of things are good with socialized medicine.
Yeah.
If you had a lot of money, you want to pay out of pocket, you get anything done right away. Even when it comes down like a heart transplant. You get on a list for something and you socialize medicine, it's going to be a long time. In fact, some places, I think I heard in Canada, after a certain age, you can't get a heart transplant. After a certain age, you can't get certain types of surgeries.
Yeah.
Because they consider you just too old,
Yeah.
But if you had money, guess what? You're getting surgery.
Right.
And you got to pay all out of pocket.
Yeah.
I don't know how the hell anybody can afford to get a new heart,
Yeah.
But that's it. But there's some good aspects that I over the years I figured how socialized medicine can be good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. In other words, if you get paid, let's talk about spine surgery.
Okay.
We talked about that. That's kind of the topic of what we do here.
Yeah.
Spine surgery, you get paid not a lot of money to do major spine surgery. And you don't get paid a lot of money to do minimally invasive spine surgery. So there's only a couple dollars difference. So what do? They're not motivated now with money.
Right.
They do. Of course, any kind of socialized medicine, nobody's really motivated because you're not getting paid anything. And you get what you pay for. That's a negative.
Yeah.
But the positive is, if you think something's going to be better for a patient and they pay the same with something else, that in this country they pay a lot of money, you're going to do the best thing for the patient, not based on what the money is.
Right.
You know, because the insurance companies here, I don't know who's running them. All I know is they're making millions and millions of dollars, more than $10 million. These CEOs are supposed to figure these things out.
Yeah.
They're in the clouds. They're in the clouds, or somebody's paying them off.
Right.
And I hate to say it, but it just does not make sense.
Yeah.
And that's a completely different subject. But so in that respect, socialized medicine is good.
Right.
You know, they do the best for the patient compared to something else here that they would be paid more for.
Right.
Here, they would do whatever pays the best.
Yeah.
You know, you make an honest person dishonest like that. You know, you should be paid in this country by what it's worth.
Right.
You know, not what people try to get the lobbyists to pay everybody off to get more money. You know,
Right.
that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Anyway, I remember one time, it probably was in like 1960, probably around 1964, 65. I had to be like 9 years old, 10 years old. And we went to church with Mom, remember? And what did you do after church? Probably was a big mistake. You said, honey, listen, on the way home, I have
Stopped at the bakery?
No, well, sometimes we had to stop at patients' houses.
Oh,
You
yes.
did house calls.
Right.
And you would go in there for about a half hour, 45 minutes. And I think at the time we were 3 or 4 kids because we were 6 in the family
Right.
total. But at that time it was 3 or 4. And we drove Mom crazy in the car to the point where she didn't want to go to church anymore. But anyway, yeah, so he used to go in a couple times. I don't know how many times. Probably wasn't a lot. But he used to go in and do house calls and then come out. And he always had something in his hand.
Right.
Something they were cooking or making, you know, homemade bread, homemade salami, cheese.
Wow.
You know, nothing that they ever really bought. These are the patients that would
Make these things. Yeah.
because they want to spend a lot. Can't spend money. It probably cost them more money for cheese than it would cost for a doctor in those days to come and visit. you.
Right. Nothing went wasted. It was always made into something that
But later on, he stopped off at Morales Bakery. Remember?
Yes.
Morales Bakery.
What are you looking for?
My jacket.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll talk a little bit about what I do and what interventional pain physicians do. We do epidurals. We do. If you're an interventional pain physician, we
Want me to
do
give it to you?
minimally invasive spine surgeries,
Right.
and that's what makes a difference with minimally
So
invasive
this is
spine
not
surgery
mine.
and regular spine surgeons. Anyway,
Let's see if this is.
Ooh.
Dad, we're on the air here.
Kleenex?
We're on the
Oh,
air.
that's what you need. Maybe in the bathroom, sweetheart.
So, so anyway, we treat arthritis, any kind of arthritis, any kind of joint. We treat tendonitis. We treat torn rotator cuffs, any kind of ligament tears. We treat any kind of tendons that are torn. We treat, and we usually treat that with minimally invasive, not minimally invasive. We usually treat it with regenerative medicine.
Right.
We have all kinds of stuff today, like platelet-rich plasma. We got amniotic tissues. We have also stem cell. We can actually retrieve stem cells, which it's kind of going to the wayside because to retrieve a stem cell, you have to actually go into the person's iliac crest. So it's a procedure. You got to invade the bone and withdraw the person's own stem cells to inject it into certain areas. But amniotic tissue today is actually working pretty good. And so is PRP. And PRP is still your own platelet-rich plasma, which contains a lot of growth factors, chemotactic factors, which call upon your own stem cells. So we don't actually inject stem cells.
Right.
There's also a controversy now that you're probably not, from what I understand, you're not even allowed to say that I inject stem cells.
Yeah, the word stem cells. I mean, I guess the terminology is changing over time. Yeah.
Yeah, the insurance companies. First of all, they don't pay for that stuff.
Right.
It's very rare that they say maybe some kind of personal injury insurance companies or workman's comp might pay for it, but
Yeah.
the straight Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Medicare, none of them pay for regenerative medicine yet.
Right.
And
it's been around for quite a while.
it's been around. They've done studies and they prove that it works.
Yeah.
But they don't pay for it.
Yeah.
They try to get away without paying whatever they can. And right now they're getting away with it. But there are some things that we do that after the 1st of January, the Medicare is going to start paying a little bit more. Thank God.
Oh.
And there was a rumor that there actually was a bill to decrease the payments of Medicare 4.5%, but they're fighting that. There was years ago they had this special bill that was put in a law, and they're trying to reinforce that to prevent them from decreasing the rate 4.5%, and it's ridiculous. Our increase in, and I hate to be the whole day complaining about this stuff, but real quick, we
Sure.
the price of living goes up, inflation goes up, but it's funny how all the insurance companies pay less and less every year. I don't know. It gets tough.
Yeah.
People understand doctors are rich. Doctors are rich.
Yeah.
Most of us became doctors because.
Well, that's what we thought. I mean, like, even I thought that. I mean, you're a doctor. You've got yachts. You've got this. You've got that. And people still think that today. That these doctors, it's all money to them, and they.
Well, I mean, you look at what makes a person today decide to be a physician, right? And I'm curious, compared to, let's say, a physician with my father, Dad, when did you decide you want to become a doctor? How old were you?
16.
16 years old. Can you see him?
Yeah. Perfect.
At 16 years of age, I decided I wanted to go to Rome, Italy, for my degree and meet my grandmother, uncles, aunts, and cousins. And that's what I ended up doing. But it was a long trail.
What was your motivation? Today, the motivation might be different.
I saw several movies, one of which was called The Gaslight, which caught my attention about human nature and reactions to different stimuli in life. And I was very attracted to it. Initially, I wanted to go into psychology, but then they told me you can't become a psychologist unless you become an MD first, which was the old days.
Right.
Today, you don't do that. So, but anyway, so that's how I got motivated.
Well, most people who are physicians or become physicians or become nurses, caretakers, are deep down inside, they're caretakers. They want to help people.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a good physician, any kind of caretaker, a caretaker. They want to help people. And in the other aspect of it, when you want to help people, you try to help people sometimes too much. And you start to do things that you shouldn't do, even in the family unit or friend unit. You just want to help people, and they tend to help people that don't even ask for help.
Right.
So you got that. So the main motivation is you want to help people. You want to see people feel better.
Yeah.
You want to get rid of diseases. You just want to make people better.
Yeah.
But at the same token, you realize that this is not an easy chore to become a doctor.
No.
Especially, the doctors that can't get into medical school in this country, who actually try to get into medical school and they can't, but they're really motivated and they want to go become a doctor. So what do? They go out in another country.
Yeah.
As my father alluded to before, there was always a lack, not enough physicians in the United States. I don't know the statistics today, but I'm sure there's a lack of physicians in certain subspecialties.
Yeah.
I also want to add to that I in particular was accepted by a medical school here in New York City, which doesn't exist anymore, because my mother said, "Why do you have to go so far away to get a degree?" I said, "Mom, that's where you came from." But anyway, so
you decided to go shorter distance, Italy.
Italy.
You had to go to New York to
There's
take a
one-
boat.
In retrospect, what you're arguing about why people get motivated. Let me just bring out a statistic which I observed
Hmm.
when I was in, I think it was Italy, or it could have been a different country, maybe Sweden. 51% of the physicians were female.
Oh,
In this country, only 5% of women are, up until recently,
yeah,
are physicians or were physicians,
right.
which tells us a little bit about the background, which is evaluated to determine, your choice. And so, for whatever, in certain countries, women rule the roost as far as
Medicine went?
and
Yeah.
here men.
Huh.
Yeah.
This is great stuff, you know.
It's good stuff.
So, I mean, to have, it's like he's a walking history book
Right.
on medicine.
Right. That's what I always say. Like you get anywhere near Dr. Phil over here, and you sit down and you listen, man, because his stories are fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we have a good time chatting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have different customs and different cultures. For example, I presented to the Italian Urological Society, of which I was a member,
Right.
100 cases I did to remove a man's prostate. Well, some of my colleagues called it the hard way. It was developed by an Englishman, and I loved every step of the way because it was perfect as compared with the more popular approach of removing the prostate, which required more days in the hospital, more medical attention, and sometimes more operations. And when I presented these 100 cases in Italian to the Italian audience, one of the physicians curiously asked, "Why are you Americans so interested in shortening the hospital stay of a patient?" And I said, for obvious reasons, possibly mistakes in medication, mistakes in procedures, different mistakes, and also the patient is happy to get home right away.
Right.
And what's wrong with that? What was wrong with that in that particular country was that was a livelihood. That was, the longer in the hospital, the more
The more people are getting that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you got to take into consideration. And another factor, which I brought up in a previous meeting, was that in America, all this discussion about socialized medicine, nobody really understands that any physician up until recently who wants privileges in the hospital must apply for full privileges and serve 25 years. Get this, 25 years in to be available to take care of people with no insurance or not enough insurance or whatever, and just do 25 years of it. I did 43 years of it, which I'm happy about. But see, nobody knows that. If you ask the average person in America, does your doctor do anything for nothing? They said, absolutely not. But that doctor is in the hospital staff and has to serve 25 years of giving either free work or practically free work to the patient.
Well, it's changed a little bit today. What they do now is, since the hospitals are trying to form a monopoly and they want everything inside the hospital, they hire what they call hospitalists. So the amount of doctors actually doing call that don't work for the hospital, who are on staff, there's less of that. In fact, some of the doctors that rely over the years in the past generations relied on being on call to make their money, to survive, to do their job. They're not allowed to do that anymore. in a lot of places because they hired their own doctors. They hire their own hospitalists. They do general medicine. They hire the OBGYN doctors. They'll hire urologists. They'll hire infectious disease doctor, general surgeons, neurospine surgeons, orthopedic spine. I mean, it goes right down the list. Or pediatric doc. They have their own doctors. It's like a private organization that you just have a multidisciplinary. So some surgery centers and physicians join together and they make up a multidisciplinary center outside the hospital, and they utilize the hospital with their patients, which was the ideal way of doing it. But now what's happening is they're monopolizing it and they're hiring their own physicians. Now these physicians, they go to work. They do their shifts, 9 to 5 or 3 to 11 or 11 to 3. They have their own shifts and they go home when they're done. So there's pros and cons about that, and that's not the discussion here today. But it has changed, and my father explained how it was when he was a physician, and not too long ago. Because when before they had these hospitals, I've been out here a long time, pushing 30 years, and you join the hospital, you were obligated to do call, and when you do call, a lot of times you show up, and these people don't have any insurance. What are you gonna do? Say, hey, they got no insurance. I'm leaving.
Well, yeah,
you can't do that.
I'm clocking out
for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Hippocratical oath.
Yeah.
You're not going to abandon patients that need you. And number two, that's part of the being on staff. You're obligated, and that's what he was talking about for 25 years. I don't know if they still have that. You're here for 25 years now. You're not obligated to do it, but they do have other options. For example, I have a busy practice. I can't be called for emergencies while I'm in the operating room in the surgery center to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So in order to avoid that, you get what they call, I think it's a regional staff privileges. You get full staff privilege or regional staff privilege. Regional means that you don't have to do call, but you're allowed to do surgeries there. You're allowed to admit patients there. You're allowed to see patients. But all minimally, you have certain amount of patients, or I don't know what the rules are, but they got a list. So you do have options today. You don't have to become a complete staff physician. And why do they allow that? Because they probably prefer that they use their own physicians that are working there.
Sure.
And I think one of the main reasons I blame the insurance companies, because the insurance companies, somebody like me, we talked about that, I think last week or a couple of weeks ago, that they won't negotiate with somebody like me because of 1 or 2, 3 physicians. Where if you have a hospital with 500 physicians, they'll negotiate better rates with them.
Right.
Because if 500 physicians come out of network with an insurance company, that's a big blow to the insurance company. If one doctor comes out of network, they don't care.
Right.
It's not much difference in money.
Yeah.
So that's the problem there.
Well, we had a great a new patient came in this week, and she flagged me down as I was walking through the waiting room, because she saw me on the TV commercial, right? And I sat down with her because she wanted to hear my story, like they usually always ask me and stuff. So I did, and she was like, she started crying, and like, oh my, that's exactly like me. And that's the interesting thing. Like when you come into in the waiting rooms at your place, people will start talking to each other, and sometimes it's a relief to hear that somebody else is feeling what you're feeling, and I was telling her how I found you, and what you've done for me, and how awful I was before. It was the nightmare of my life.
She's a new patient. Right?
She's a new patient. Yeah. So, and I told her, I said, you stick with him. You stick with him. I put all my faith in Dr. Jasper. I put all my faith in him, and the doc has never faltered. He is as true as you see us talk about him on his commercials, on this show, and other platforms. If you're suffering from pain, okay, and you've been suffering for a while, the lady I spoke with, I believe she had spinal stenosis. by her description of her pain. And she was suffering for a good long time. And she says it was a very big deal coming to see you because she's nervous about doctors. A lot of people are, especially when you're in pain, because you don't want to hear the worst case scenario or anything like that. And so you might procrastinate by coming in and things like that. But Dr. Jasper performs minimally invasive procedures. And I was telling her, I says, what he did with me healed up, and it's like a freckle now. Like there's barely a memory of what you did on the outside.
Yeah.
And she started crying again. She's very emotional. I mean, it is, because this is something you've been suffering for possibly years, and it was so for her. And we started talking about all the things you can't do because of your pain. Your pain keeps you from joining in on the family, on kids, seeing your grandkids grow up, or just seeing your own kids grow up. That was hard for me. Every time Maggie would go out with Benjamin and taking him out for my son Benjamin, taking him out for his little league whatever's, when he was a kid, I stayed home because my pain was just too bad. And what is given back to you at the Jasper Spine Institute
Sounds like a commercial.
it does, but it's true. What is given back to you at the Jasper Spine Institute is the rest of your life. And that's what happened to me. It's the one best decision I've ever made besides marrying my wife. And I'm only saying that because she's here. And
I don't believe that.
But Doc is the real deal, guys. Go to Jasper Spine Institute today. Well, they're closed today, but go as soon as they're open on Monday. All right. And book an appointment, call. It's going to be the best decision you made too.
That'd be 732-262-0700.
Yeah, it's right up on the screen there if you're watching this. And tomorrow morning from between 6 and 8, we've got whenever we do a new show, it gets broadcasted on Cat Country on local 104.1 FM. And so Sunday mornings are pretty much the Jasper gang and family and friends and stuff. And so you'll see Painless with Dr. Gabriele Jasper. You'll also see Radio Free with America with Dr. Barbara Schneider. And which
coming in today?
Yeah, that's coming up next too.
All right. So what else you want to talk about today? It was a pretty good week as far as patients feeling better, coming back. A lot of them with no pain, 80% pain relief, 60% pain relief. Every once in a while, you have somebody with no pain relief after an injection. Why? Because they have multiple pain generators, and when you give an injection, you got to figure out which one is actually the pain generator.
Prime, yeah.
So you have to do some they call diagnostic injections, and if they don't get any better with one particular injection, that means that's not the pain generator.
Right.
So you got to figure it out. That's one of the reasons. If it works, guess what? It becomes a therapeutic injection.
Yeah.
It means it worked. All these big terminologies.
Right.
Either it works or it doesn't work. But the key thing is here, it's like I always say, it's a process of elimination. And you would think that is not a good thing to say in medicine. But a lot of times it is a process of elimination. For example, some little kid comes in with an acute appendicitis, right? All the symptoms of appendicitis. There's a good chance, not a high chance, but there's a good chance today that you operate on them and they take the appendix out and it wasn't the problem.
Yeah.
It could have been just some other reason to have abdominal pain at that time. So guess what? It was a process of elimination. They figured out it wasn't that. So you got to go back to the drawing board and figure out what it is. And then you got patients that have multiple pain generators. You get rid of one, now they're 50% better. Well, doc, how come I'm not 100%? Because you got other pain generators causing the same kind of pain.
Yeah. And
you work your way up. That's why it's good not to do everything at the same time.
Yeah.
You see 5 pain generators. You don't get 5 different injections because if they feel good, you don't know which one was a pain generator.
Right.
And it's overkill for something. You got to isolate it. You got to figure out what the problem is. You got to be very precise on what you do, especially today. You can. You have X-ray machines, live fluoroscopy. You got CAT scans, you got MRIs, you got bone scans, you got bone densities. You got a lot of stuff today.
Yeah.
But you got some sad stuff that goes on. For example, I was sent a patient that had a history of breast cancer, and she had some compression fractures where the bone in the spine, the vertebral bodies break, and that's one of the things that we do every week. We fix these, and when you fix them, the compression fractures, you have the pain goes away almost immediately. The pain goes away. Sometimes a couple days, but the majority of the patients right there in the recovery room, they get up and the pain is gone because the bone's crunching in the spine. And if you fill it with the medical epoxy or cement, whatever you want to call it, it fills in the cracks, it doesn't move, and it feels good.
Yeah.
But this patient, it looked a little funny on the MRI, and the radiologist who read it never said anything about it. Why? Because it wasn't so obvious on the MRI, but it looked like it might have been maybe metastatic disease.
Right.
Because the doctor reading it doesn't know what the patient's history is. And I did. The patient had a history of breast cancer. And but it was very well controlled. I think it's about 8 years she had it. She's in remission, got no pain. She's not on, I think she's on one medication to prevent it. So I'm not an oncologist. I don't know exactly what. It could have been that she was on nothing because she was now considered cured.
Right.
But I looked at it with this history, and I called her oncologist up, and I said, "Listen," I said, and she really wasn't in that much pain. I don't fix compression fractures unless the person's in pain.
Right.
Right? A lot of pain. They're usually in pain because they will heal on their own. But it turns out that she did have significant pain, but she was very stoic, and these stoic people, they don't appear to have a lot of pain. So when they say they have pain and they don't look like they have a lot of pain, you got to take their word for it.
Yeah.
And but not only that, it might have been metastatic disease, right? And also her it wasn't collapsed, it was solid. So I talked to the oncologist. I said, we could do this kyphoplasty for a couple of reasons. One reason, not because she's in severe pain. She does have pain, so we could do it for pain. We'll get rid of the pain. Number two, she has breast cancer, and we need to get tissue. I don't care what kind of cancer it is. The only way you know 100% if you have breast cancer is or breast cancer, or any kind of cancer, if you get a piece of the tissue and you put it under the microscope and you go through tests, then you know what it is.
Right.
You can guess all you want. But any oncologist, any surgeon, even the patient want to know if they do have it or they don't have it. So that's another reason why I do the kyphoplasty, because before I actually do the kyphoplasty, before I put the epoxy or the cement in, I do a biopsy and I send it out. And sure enough, the patient was pain-free after. And
do you do that with every kyphoplasty?
no, anybody has a history of cancer that might be metastatic to the bone, or if it looks suspicious,
right?
I do it. You don't do it straight out all the time.
Yeah,
that would be a waste of money and everything else, because it's very rare that you might have that. Sure enough, it came back positive for breast cancer.
Oh boy!
But she's asymptomatic. But now that puts her in. I'm gonna call the oncologist, and it puts her in a different category on different treatment plans. They have different stages, so that puts her in a different stage, different treatment plan. But what it appears to be, in a positive note, the cancer that she has is very controllable with chemotherapy.
Oh.
Some cancers go crazy and they just kill you quick.
Yeah.
This one here, obviously, with certain types of chemotherapy, will keep it at bay.
Right.
So even if it slipped out into a bone, you probably can control it for a while, maybe a long time. She might be able to live a full life.
Yeah.
Without a problem. If the oncologist, which I know is good, takes care of them. But that's one thing happened this week. But what else? We complained about the insurance companies. It appears that they're going to start paying us, which is a problem, but they actually haven't paid us yet. these traditional insurance companies, the major medical stuff. But that's it. But other thing is that we do, and would be the arthritis we talked about. I'm sure you heard about the ablation. We do joints. You know, we drain. We could drain the joints. We could put steroids in it. We could PRPs, platelets, amniotic tissue, all this stuff. We do it in the joints, and also the spine. You know, there's a lot of doctors out there putting this regenerative stuff in the spine. I don't do that right now because I'm not convinced, and you know, don't go by me. There are a lot of studies out there that are convincing, but it's a lot of money to do it. It depends on what country, what state, where you are, and how much you got to pay cash.
Right.
That's what it is. It's all cash type treatment. But I do the stuff that works. For example, now we're not talking about regenerative medicine, but you have these nerves that are called medial branch nerves that come out of the joints that are very painful in some patients in the spine. We heat them up at 80 degrees Celsius with a special needle. It's called ablation or radio frequency lesioning of the nerve, and that's the nerve that brings pain sensation to the brain.
Right.
Guess what? The nerve doesn't work anymore. They don't feel the pain from those joints. So it's a pretty successful procedure. We've been doing it for over 20 years probably. But
we have a question here if you want to answer it.
Can you do any nerve ablation in the knee area? Absolutely. We do that at the Jasper Spine Institute. In fact, it works pretty good. Who was that asked?
Mike.
Michael.
Dr. Michael Kachmar.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We've been doing that now. You know who does a lot of it? Dr. Gabriele loves doing that kind of stuff.
Oh,
I used to do it, and they had trouble. We had trouble getting paid for it. They didn't want to pay for it. All of a sudden now they're getting paid for it. And Dr. Gabriele learned how to do that in his fellowship training. So, you know, he likes doing it. So that's what he does now. He's good at that, you know.
The patients are loving Dr. Gabriele.
Dr. Kachmar, you said?
No. yeah, they love him too. But no. They're loving Dr. Gabriele. I'm hearing stuff actually from the patients. I spoke to one this week, and she said she'd been a patient of yours for years, and then when she heard about this this young doctor in our practice, she's like, oh, I gotta try him out. I got to see what he's like, and she really likes him. Yeah.
So she abandoned me?
No, she never abandoned you.
She
Jeez.
stole a patient from me.
Jeez. She knows you by she refers to you by first name. So some of your patients are that tight with you. You know.
They call her and say, "Yeah, can you get me in today? Because I'm Dr. Jasper's friend." And then they come into my office, Dr. Jasper, is this your friend? I said, no, it's my patient.
never heard of this guy. Who is this?
Well, you know, you talk about cars and motorcycles and hunting. Sailing.
Yeah. You are a guy who everybody's your friend. You know, you are that guy.
Listen, I don't have any friends. All right? Let's get that straight.
Yeah. But anyway, we did have our phone number up. You could call in. It's for whenever we're doing a live show. It's 732-237-4949. 732-237-4949. Let me turn it on here. There we go. And you know, you can call in when you get notifications. So that's why it's important to like and subscribe and even share our shows with your friends so they can hear all the stuff that Dr. Jasper does and how he can take away your pain, your loved one's pain. You know, it's amazing when you find that doctor that isn't going to, like, I went through so many pain specialists and they all said, oh, I can't do, because some people's toolbox don't have all the tools in it. You know, you got to find a doctor like Dr. Gabriele Jasper, whose toolbox is more like a pole barn, you know. And
you can have a pole barn with no tools in it.
Yeah, but yours is pretty stock.
It depends what you have in your toolbox.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know, we're located at 74 Brick Boulevard, Brick, New Jersey. And one of the reasons why I picked that location is because it's right in the center of a lot of towns, easy access. It's on the border of Tom's River.
Mm.
And it's almost on the border of Jackson, also Lakewood. It's exit 89 off the Parkway, and it's approximately 4 minutes from the exit on the Parkway. So you can come from north or south and just pop off the Parkway, and 4 minutes later you're in my parking lot.
Right.
It's New Jersey. New Jersey's a pretty good hub. You know, we're right here in the Northeast. Yesterday, in fact, I had a telemedicine with a patient in Massachusetts. He's about 50, 60 miles to the west of Boston.
Right.
And he's out in the boondocks. Right. And he called me up, he sent me his MRI, and we did a complete telemedicine. I realized that, you know, he's got pain shooting down his right leg all the way down to his foot. And he had a foraminal stenosis, which means tightening around the nerve coming out of the spine, mostly at 4, 5, and 5S1. And he has also some coming out of his in his hip a little bit, and and he did have foraminal stenosis at 2, 3. So he needs ultimately a transforaminal epidural at 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5S1 on the right side, and he also has spinal stenosis, which I told him that we're probably going to get rid of his leg pain, but it's not going to get rid of an inability for him to walk. You know, with spinal stenosis, they can't walk long, they can't stand up straight, they can't stand up long, they can't go upstairs, they got to lean on a shopping cart. And this guy, he says he leans on a shopping cart, and he tells me exactly how many stairs he has in his house. He's got 2 sets of 8 stairs in his house, and he knew how many numbers. And somebody has spinal stenosis knows how many stairs they have, and difficulty getting up the stairs. You got to pull yourself up the banister.
Yeah.
You know, and you're constantly wanting to sit down. You sit down, you feel good. But he didn't feel good sitting down because he had pinched nerves. And for some reason, anatomically, on most patients, when they sit down, the neuroforamina, where the nerve comes out, collapses and puts more pain on it. I said to him, listen, come down and I'll give you a shot. Probably can get rid of your pain. He goes, I could never make that trip. So here we had a telemedicine on somebody who has so much pain that he can't get in a car to make the trip. Unless they lay him in the back of a truck or something.
Yeah.
It'd be tough in this kind of weather.
Hey, I was transported very similarly. Whenever we had to go anywhere, I couldn't sit up. So what was I going to do? I usually drove in the car with the front seat all the way back, and I was on my belly on it. It was like the most uncomfortable thing. But how else can you get around when you're suffering like that? You know.
So what I'm going to do with him is he has an appointment next Wednesday with a orthopedic surgeon.
Right.
Who, by the way, has a bad knee too. He's going for that too. And I said, I'll do some research in his area if there's any interventional pain docs like me that does these kind of injections, which is hard to find. A lot of times they don't do these specific injections.
Right.
And I also told him to ask your orthopedic surgeon. He might know somebody. They usually do. And keep me in the loop. And I told him to tell the orthopedic surgeon to send me a report on his assessment and plan, because now he's my patient. I'm going to keep an eye on him and make sure that he doesn't have the wrong thing done as far as I'm concerned. So I'll be his primary care pain physician.
Right.
And I do that for a lot of my patients. You know, they go out for opinions, spine surgical opinions, and we communicate. I'm in the loop, and I communicate with the surgeons too.
Yeah.
To try to make the best. You know, we make a decision together. It's my patient, now their patient. So by rights, we should, put 2 heads together and make the right decision, and not go based on what, one aspect of medicine.
One point of view. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're done now. Dr. Schneider's downstairs, I believe, waiting for.
Does Dr. Philip Jasper have anything to say as a conclusion?
I thank you for inviting me.
Oh, of course, Phil. Anytime, man. Anytime.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and hope to see you in my office. If you got pain, I can fix that.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. For more information about Dr. Gabriele Jasper and all the things he does and we talk about on this show, please go to jaspermd.com. You can make an appointment with him by calling 732-262-0700. He's located in Brick Boulevard, 74 Brick Boulevard, in fact, building number 3, right behind the Roy Rogers. So make sure you book an appointment and get rid of your pain. Why not? All right. Take care, everybody. Oh wait, we got a lot of lovers before we leave here. We got hearts, and we've got, oh hey Jeremy, I tried. That's Mike just having a conversation.